El and Oholiab, and every skillful person in whom the Lord had put skill and understanding to know how to perform all the works in the construction of the sanctuary, shall perform in accordance with all that the Lord has commanded. And Moses called Bezalel and Oholiab, and every skillful person in whom the Lord had put skill, everyone in whose heart stirred in him, to come to work and to perform it. And they received from Moses all the contributions which the sons of Israel had brought in to perform the work in the construction of the sanctuary. And they still continued bringing to him freewill offerings every morning. And all the skillful men who were performing all the work of all the sanctuary came, and each one from the work which he was performing. And they said to Moses, the people are bringing much more than is enough for the construction work which the Lord has commanded us. So Moses issued a command and a proclamation that was circulated throughout the camp, saying, let neither man nor woman any longer perform the work of the contribution to the sanctuary. Thus the people were restrained from bringing any more, and the material they had was sufficient and more than enough for all the work to be performed. And all the skillful men and all those who were performing the work made the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twisted linen and blue, purple, and scarlet materials, cherubim, seraphim, and the work of the skin. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits. The width of each curtain was 4 cubits, and cubits and bits and bits and cubits. And he joined 5 curtains to 6 curtains, and loops and blue edge and outermost curtains and other coops, and 50 loops in one curtain. He made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain, which was the second set. The loops were opposite each other. He made 50 clasps of gold, joined them to the curtain, one another with the clasps, so that the tabernacle was a single unit. Then he made the curtains of goat hair for the tent over the tabernacle. He made the 11 curtains in all, and the length of each curtain was 30 cubits and 4 cubits, and the width of each curtain was... And he made all that stuff, and 10 cubits and 10 on each board, and they were set on the second side of the tabernacle. On the north side he made 20 boards, and on the fourth sockets, the silver 2 sockets of the board, and the 2 sockets, and on and on and on and on and on. Then he made bars of acacia wood, 5, I'm down 31, for the boards on one side of the tabernacle, and the 5 bars on the boards on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars on the back, and made a little bar to pass through the center of the bar of these. Moreover, he made veils of blue and purple scarlet material and fine twisted linen. He made it with cherubim and work as skillful workmen, and then he made 4 pillars of acacia wood and overlaid it. Then he had to smack down. And he overlaid them with gold, and they looked the gold, and he cast the 4 sockets with the silver for them, and then he made the screen for the doorway of the tent, and the blue and the purple and the blood, but then the 5 sockets were of bronze. Lord have mercy.
That's almost as bad as the guy.
No. You know what this is likened unto? This is the precursor, the pattern for the modern day instructions of assembling a grill. You buy a grill and it says some assembly required. That's where they got it right here. Anyway, 37. Now, Bezalel made the ark of acacia. Well, basically what they're doing here is, you've seen pictures of it in Indiana Jones, and that's, believe it or don't, the Indiana Jones was pretty good as far as, the way they likened it. And they had 2 wings. And the other angel over here. And they had 2 wings like that, something to that nature is what they're doing. And then they had things on the side, and the poles would go through that for the men to carry it, where they wouldn't have to touch the actual tabernacle themselves. But overall, it was the one that they showed on Indiana Jones was not a bad replica of supposedly what it looked like. Remembering that it's been lost since the days of Uzziah, and we don't know where it's been. So wherever it ended up on this planet, it probably is buried in a hole somewhere under the tons of earth, and where it is we don't know. And there's rumors, of course, and everything else. and legends and stories. But the fact of the matter is, it did at one time exist. And it was, for a very long time, the center or the focus of everything godly. Even to the point wherever it went and wherever it rested, those people were blessed. And wherever it was absent from, the people were usually in want and hard times. You see what I'm saying? So whatever it was, this represented God. And it was the presence of God. It was the person of God in a day and age where, when the Lord presents Himself, it's always in a non-tangible form. It's like a cloud or a whirlwind or a blazing fire, always changing, always. It's not like a person. It wouldn't be until Jesus came along that God would take the form or the solid form of a person and say, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Up until that point, God was somewhat of a mystery. You will not use my name. You will not see my face. You will not this. You will not that. And He kept His distance from man. And a lot of issues were, well, why? If He wanted His man to be His people and all that, why would He keep His distance? Well, in essence, He really didn't. He gave them a symbol. He gave them something they could revolve around and focus their life on, and pay not so much attention to this actual artifact as to the many commands that came from the artifact, and that is to worship the God alone, and to make His name holy and keep it holy, to take time for the Sabbath, to worship on the Sabbath, to take time for church, to care for one another. Don't kill, don't steal, don't bear false witness, don't steal each other's stuff, don't covet each other's wives and all that nonsense. But they did have a central focus, because in Christianity today, this is what we're lacking most and foremost in Christianity is a central figure, a central focus. Now I know the cross has been for 2 centuries the focus of Christianity, but the fact of the matter is the cross is losing its efficacy, if you will, in this day and age. Partly because we've made it into jewelry. We've made it into, everything fashionable. We've taken away some of the holiness of it. I can guarantee you nobody was wearing earrings that looked like the Ark of the Covenant back in these days. And we've done that. We've blurred those lines. We've downgraded the significance of that cross. Some say it didn't even happen. Others say Jesus was just a metaphorical or an illusionary kind of sacrifice. It wasn't an actual sacrifice. And this is why the quest for the historical Jesus became so important, especially back 50s, 60s, that when the seeds of liberalism were being planted, and people were saying, oh, that doesn't mean anything anymore, it's a bunch of nonsense 2,000 years ago, even if it did happen, doesn't bother us anymore. Well, it does affect us, because God is the same today, yesterday, and forever. And as the Ark of the Covenant, if you were out digging in the desert and found this thing, my advice to you is don't touch it. And second of all, sure as hell don't open it. That's a stupid thing to do. And the reason is because God said not to. But more importantly, God said, I'm timeless. I am the same at creation. I'm the same at the middle of creation. I'm the same at the end of creation. I existed before creation. I'll exist after creation. I simply am. And first and foremost, I, the Lord, do not change. Well, if that's true, there's a lot of ifs here. If you believe there's a God, if you believe that this God has visited earth or humankind, communicated with us, and if you believe that God's rules are God's rules and He will hold you to them, then my suggestion is, if you find this box, leave it alone. Don't touch it, and surely don't open it. I like it in the Indiana Jones. That's always great, and they're carrying this box around, and they're, all these guys touching it. I mean, the end part there was kind of cool, where the fire came out, and and gobbled them all up. And that's biblical too, because the Lord says, if you disobey me, I shall be as a consuming fire. He says that many times. So the fact that, we had roast German that day was not surprising. God said that was going to happen if you mess with it. But this was the central focus of godliness, and they carried this thing and they set it wherever they came to camp. They'd travel for 3 days or 2 weeks or whatever, and they would come to a place and the Lord would say, make camp here for a while and rest and feed your babies and all that stuff. Well, they would set that down, and then they'd set the tent of the meeting up over it and all that stuff. And they would stay there for a month or two and let the people rebuild, regroup and all that before they tried to move this whole bunch of people further into the desert. But this was always the central focus. And if you will read later in Leviticus and some of Deuteronomy, the ark would be here, and there would be 3 tribes camping to the left, three tribes to the south, 3 tribes to the east, 3 tribes to the north. And that's how they would set up camp every time they stopped. So all the people would be focused on and centered around God. And this is the way they made their camp every single time. So you think about it, you go, wow, that's the central focus of God. That's what we need today. You go in most of these churches today, the modern ultra churches and all that, there's no cross. There's no symbolism. There's no banners. Most of them never have or mention the name Jesus. What are you doing there? What are you doing? Well, you just, we're blurring these lines a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Right and wrong, what is right? Well, I can't say what is wrong. Well, wrong is spelled wrong. What is right and what is wrong? Well, we used to know what was right and what was wrong. Thou shalt not steal. Now, can I make it any plainer than that? Don't take stuff that ain't yours. Thou shalt not steal. But then again, today, we cheat on our taxes a little bit. We rip people off. And I give you $10 for a $6 burger, and you give me a 5 and 2 ones back. And I go, and I walk away. What did I just do? I stole your money. It was your money. It was not my money. $4 of it was my money. But the rest was yours. And I took it, and I knew I took it. Or, boop, boop. You get in those cans of soup. Boop, boop. One doesn't boop. And then, you keep going on. You go, hey, she only charged me for 6 soups, and I got 12. And let's just buy one, get one free. You just stole 6 cans of soup. These people at Walmart, and I like the automatic checker outers where you do it yourself. They're covering those things. Getting charged for like every 3rd product they charge. Sitting there thinking, you are stealing in plain daylight, in plain sight. You're stealing. So now they have to have ladies sitting there going, yeah, bring in the eliminator. Smackdown, Walmart Smackdown. And we have to have people there to make sure you're not a crook. How sad is that? What kind of testimony is that on our society? We need people there to make sure you stay honest. Wow. Now, I would never steal, not intentionally, but many times they've given me back too much money. And I've had to say, well, no, that's wrong. Then they get all mad about it until you tell them, this is going to benefit you, not me. You know what? We've kind of blurred this. Well, everybody does it. You get a little break, They got plenty of money, don't worry about it. That's not the issue. The issue is it's not yours. And you took it anyway. Therefore, you stole. What does your God say about that? Do not steal. I don't know how to make it any simpler than that. That's a prohibition. Don't do it. Oh. All that screaming last night at the SmackDown. But see, we blurred these lines. And you can go many different ways. I just use the issue of stealing. But you can do it as to morality. You can do it as to whatever, you know. And these guys come on TV all the time, and they've dated like 15 other wives and then of other guys, and you know. And I'm thinking, and then the audience applauds them, and they're laughing, and and I'm thinking, if that guy's screwing around with my wife, I might be apt to shoot him. And yet you're applauding him for doing that. Why? He's an immoral individual. He's a person who cares obviously for nobody else but himself, in his own gratification, his own pleasures. He's not to be trusted. He's a vile part of our society. He's breaking up relationships. He's destroying families. And you're applauding him. Why? Think about it. Well, I'll tell you why, right here. No central focus. In Christianity, we call it the Christocentric focus. They say if you're going to be a Christian, have a Christocentric focus. Now, somebody tried to enhance that a few years ago with little bracelets, but again, I think it backfired on us. It backfired because once again, we took the central focus and made it jewelry. The what would Jesus do? You remember that? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Of course, the whole world took and said, well, what would Reagan do? What would Buffett do? And there it went, you know. They tried to put the spotlight back on the focus, but in doing so, they blurred it even more. So where does it stop? Well, in this day and age, in this world, Satan will never stop. He will keep it blurred. Any and every opportunity he can. The only place we can set it and set it clearly and set it distinctively and definitively is in our own hearts and minds. And as many times I show you the cross, Chuck, it ain't going to mean nothing until you make it mean something to you in your heart and in your mind. And that's the deal. It's no longer good enough to have a hill with a cross on it. It's no longer good enough to have a camp with the ark in the middle of it. This is exactly what God meant in the prophets and what Jesus meant when He said the time has come where God will write His laws upon your minds and upon your hearts. And you will worship Him in the spirit of worship. Not necessarily in the presence of a wooden cross or a symbol. You will become a royal priesthood, a royal group, assembly of believers. And together, then you shall join together, and there will my church be. That's when He issued the thing, wherever two or more of you are gathered, that's my church. That's where I'll worship. That's where we'll be together. Why? Well, because the box and the cross and all of those things were passing away. God knew it. He prepared for it. But nevertheless, He continues to emphasize that Christocentric focus. The last question Philip asked was, show us the Father, it'll be enough. You're an idiot, Philip. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Paul said, I count all things but loss next to knowing Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. Everything else is loss. Everything that I thought was important is not important. Nothing is more valuable than writing the Lord God in your mind and in your heart and keeping that central focus and then trying to abide by and live by these rules. And as long as Christ is clear in your heart, then these rules will be defined well in your life. And there won't be any of this blurring of the lines. You know when that money ain't yours, Chuck. Put it back. You know when that wife ain't yours, Tim. Stop fooling around with it. Cougar Rush is going to kill you anyway. The point I'm trying to make is you won't have to worry about this blurring of the lines because you'll know what is right and wrong. I hear people all the time say, well, nobody knows what's right and wrong anymore today. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Or at least we can know. So that we simply choose not to. See, that's the difference. It's not the ability to know, it's the ability to abide by it. That's the difference. And you can justify it any way you can't. You won't justify it. Oh, she's a poor lady. She deserves a few extra bucks. She just stole money. Well, she's starving. She's trying to feed her kids so she can go in and loot that store. She's stealing. Why doesn't she go to that owner and say, my kids are starving. Can I borrow some bread for now and I'll pay you back later? Give that man the option of being charitable. No, I'll just bust the window and take what I want because, my kids are starving. You're a thief. You just stole. You committed a crime against man and against God. And don't try and justify it with starving babies. Their mother's a criminal. Great role model. You see when I say, oh, Tom, you're being too hard. I'm not. There's always an option in there. Evelyn, I know you got a little grocery store here, and I've got 4 babies over here. They're starving to death. Please, can you front me some bread, and I'll pay you back. Somehow I'll get the money and bring it back. But right now, these babies are crying. They're so hungry. That gives Evelyn the opportunity to say, sure, the bread's going to be stale in 3 days anyway. Who cares? Well, God bless you for your heart. God bless that guy or that woman for asking rather than stealing. A whole lot of God in that. The smashing the window, going in at night, taking what you want. There ain't no God in that. There's always an option. You can put on a bracelet and said, what would Jesus do? And then loot anyway. I loved it. Remember after Katrina that hit Louisiana? And this is honest goodness truth. I sat there and watched it on one of the news. I forget what news channel it was. One of those shows like Meet the Press or something like that. Anyway, they had a black pastor on there of one of the big churches there in New Orleans. And they were showing the videos of these people looting the stores as the storm went through. And 85% of them, he said, 85% were his congregants. He recognized them on television. And he got on TV and said, I'm going to help the police come and get you. You might have thought you got away with it with God, but you ain't getting away with it from me. And he pointed them out. He said, that's Chuck Bennett. I know him. That's Tim Yosef. He pointed them out, and they took the police and nailed every one of them. He says, I don't want you people in my church come to church every Sunday, sing the hymns, praise the Lord, throw up your hands, take communion, and then go rob stores. How could they do that? Well, I'll tell you. Let's blur them lines. Like Jimmy Buffett says, a fine line between Saturday night and Sunday morning. Even Jimmy Buffett figured that out, and he's the biggest atheist on the planet. He is an atheist 100%. He says, I'd rather die while I'm living than live when I'm dead. I said, that's a bet. You put some money on that. It'll probably happen. I'm not advocating Jimmy Buffett, by the way. I'm just saying. Okay, so this is the chapter, and I know it's a lot of make this, make that, and make this. But again, God doesn't give you commands that you can't keep. He doesn't give you, Chuck, I want you to make all these curtains and all that. And you're sitting there going, I don't know how to make curtains.
Well,
He'll give it to you. Now you know. Do it. Well, same thing with the right and the wrong. You know how. You know what is right and what is wrong. You know what is of God and what is not of God. But the problem is, fix your eyes on the author and the finisher of your faith. Notice how they put that in there? Not just the author of your faith, that you can forget later. The author and the finisher. And run the race that's set before you. That time on this earth. Fixing your eyes. Always on the Lord. Lay aside every encumbrance and sin that would entangle you or snare you. Run a straight course. Hold true. Be faithful. Keep your eyes on the prize. And you do okay. Will it be easy? Of course not. But you'll do okay. Christocentric faith. That's what we have to strive for. And it's not wearing a cross around your neck or on your ears. It's inscribing it in your heart. Abiding by it. Not just acknowledging God, but not stealing, not coveting, not bearing false witness, keeping the Sabbath holy. Abiding by it. All right? That's this chapter. It's a lot of this is unique. A lot of it, everybody brought their stuff. They were obedient. They're building the thing. They were obedient. Everything is going great. They're obedient. The box is built. The tent is built. The camp is set. The people are all focused on the Lord. Then what happened? Well, they all died in the wilderness because something. We'll talk about that before we read this book. All right? Those lines got blurred is what went wrong.